Well, these have been great. Those are some really great TEDsters. I've been really impressed. I've been really excited about listening to everybody talk. I think our organizers have done a fantastic job. I think we should give them a round of applause because they won't ask for it, but they've done a great job. All right, let's talk about our careers. I'm not going to talk about my career, and I'm not going to talk about your career, but let's talk about our careers and what careers mean and what it means to have a career and be in a career, and how careers are changing in the 21st century. We spend a lot of time preparing for our careers, but we don't spend as much time thinking about perhaps the largest part of our career, the middle of our career. Now, you can define your career temporally in different ways, and you can move these bars around on my little graph any way that you want. But if you look at census data, 60% of the time you're in the middle of your career. About 20% at the front, 20% at the back, 60% in the middle. 3 times what you would spend in those other periods is spent in the middle of the career. And yet we really don't plan for it. We don't talk about it enough for ourselves or how we plot and plan careers when we work with other people. Now, I became really interested in this when I was in New Orleans, Louisiana. Not this New Orleans, Louisiana. This New Orleans, Louisiana. Sitting in this large building at the annual meeting for the American Society for Cell Biology. 10,000 screaming cell biologists descending upon the Big Easy, inhabiting this building, and going into conference rooms not much larger than what we are in right now. And so our story begins in the award ceremony of the Women in Cell Biology Committee's meeting at the cell biology meeting. For those of you not familiar with Women in Cell Biology, it was a committee started in the 1970s by women scientists to deal with issues being in a largely male-dominated field. 40 years on, luckily, women play a much more prominent role in science and cell biology. But this committee's persisted, and it's really become interesting for me because I think that they do a great job in talking about sort of work-life issues, family issues. I'm a parent, so these are things that are important to me. And they do probably as good a job as any in mentoring and doing peer mentoring. And that's how I've been involved with them. They've asked me to do some peer mentoring, some opportunities, and I was actually doing one at this meeting. The other thing they do is they hand out awards. And they have traditionally handed out a junior scientist award for a woman who's accomplished something very early in her career, and a late career lifetime achievement for someone who's really made a major contribution throughout her career. But this year they added a new award, the Mid-Career Award. And the reason I mention this is that during this award ceremony there was a discussion about how they named the award, and they were very uncomfortable with naming it, with putting a label on mid-career. And they admitted this. These are very bright, very serious people, and they said it was very difficult to come up with, that there was negative connotations about mid and mid-career. It was difficult to figure out, when does mid-career begin, when does mid-career end? And I was struck by how something that encompasses such a large productive period of our work lives has such negative emotions attached to it. The next day, I helped lead a discussion table, some peer mentoring with scientists coming in about mid-career transitions. And again, the overall tone was very negative from the people who came. They were people who were very frustrated, people who they were awkward talking about this and felt unprepared. There were actually people who needed more than just peer mentoring from me and my colleagues. And it got me thinking about what it is that made people so frustrated at this point in their career. This isn't just for scientists. A recent survey of HR professionals done at Boston College found that when they asked organizations what they were least prepared to do, it was dealing with mid-career professionals. More than recruitment, more than retention, compensation issues. It was trying to keep their mid-career employees engaged. Point out that these are free images from the interweb showing what mid-career professionals look like. They're not copyrighted, so I'm allowed to use them. They're probably taken from government websites, and so they show mid-career workers of all shapes and sizes. One thing they have in common, it seems that they enjoy reading reports. They certainly like sitting around dark wood conference tables. Now, I could have spent some of the lavish amount of money that I'm being paid as a speaker's fee for giving this talk and purchased stock images from a company like Shutterstock. They also, if you type in mid-career professional, they give you a wide array of images of individuals. They looked a little different. The women in mid-career were all 28. They seem to all have played volleyball. They're obviously well paid because they were wearing designer clothes, and they tended to be standing on their own while people rushed around behind them smiling. The men were all in their early 60s. They were all about 6'2", very tan, very trim, and they were surrounded by people, but they seemed to be in charge. So that's how the sort of professional world sees us in mid-career. I think these people may represent more of us, including the gentleman who enjoys wearing his safari wear to work. So you might be asking yourself, why do I want to listen to a scientist tell me about careers? I know about cells, I'm a cell biologist. I know about microscopes and imaging technology, and that's about the limit of my knowledge. But I could tell you that scientists already play a role in giving advice. If you've ever gone on the interweb and let Google do your thinking for you, type in scientist, type in literature, and you'll see an array of books, very successful books that people buy. My Life in Science, How I Became a Scientist. These are very popular, they're very financially successful. But they tend to tell us two things. One, how someone became inspired to become a scientist. And the other is how someone has been successful and how they've looked back on their lives. These books rarely talk about the middle, the really beefy part, the period where we end up doing the most of our work. And that's probably because it doesn't make for really great literature. It's about work. That's too bad because it's during that period of work that we really use some of the tools that we learn as scientists, and one of those is collaboration. We're trained as scientists to collaborate, and in fact, if we go back to that mentoring table, the people who were at the table, men and women, who were really frustrated, who were really having a difficult time, lacked collaborations. They had never built the collaborations. They continued to do their own work, plodding along, but they never branched out. Now, for me, collaboration is not just working together and laboring together. It's really exchanging ideas. I get brought into collaborations often because of technical expertise. I'm a microscopist. So people want me to help them with images. I can only do so much of someone else's work before I have to delve into their problem. I have to understand their science so that I can be able to assist and be creative. That's really, for me, what a collaboration is. It's working together, it's exchanging ideas. Collaboration is very trendy, it's very cool. There's a lot of TED Talks about collaborations, and you can go and watch those. Often those collaborations, even as we saw in one of our talks today, one of the TEDx talks from online, using the internet to be able to build sort of large-scale collaborations of hundreds, thousands, millions of people throughout the globe. Those are really important. But collaborations with one or two people in your own community are equally, if not more important, and they may actually be more difficult to generate. Collaboration has also made it into popular media. This is a story, Breaking Bad, a story of a midlife career transition. If you're not familiar with the plot line, the gentleman standing in his underwear with the handgun is Walter White, a 50-something high school chemistry teacher who finds himself with an incurable disease. He's going to die from lung cancer, he's going to be financially ruined and can't leave money for his family. He decides to use his technical knowledge and do a mid-career transition to become a dealer and distributor of methamphetamine. He collaborates with Jesse Pinkman, the gentleman in the skull t-shirt, who is a low-level drug dealer, and together they build an international drug distribution empire. Now, this is a great show, it's won Emmy Awards. But it really is an interesting tale of collaboration because both of these men learn from each other and they learn new skills. Walter White becomes very bold. He learns that he had skills that he never knew he had. And even though it ends tragically, it really has a lot to tell us about collaborations and transitions. Teamwork. You hear about collaboration and the next thing you hear about is teamwork. We got to pull together as a team, we got to be a team. Sports plays a very important part of our culture. I think it has a lot to tell us about how we work together. But I would argue that teammates are not collaborators. Now, I played rugby for 8 years. I consider it to be the ultimate in team sport. There are 15 players on the field for each team. That's 3 basketball teams coordinating, 40-minute halves, no breaks, no huddles. It's incredibly physically demanding, mentally demanding. These people have to work together, but they're working together for a similar goal. They're teammates. They train together. They have similar backgrounds. They have similar coaches. A collaboration is very different. Having teamwork skills is important, but it's not collaboration. They're not learning different things from each other. We can hire people to work for us, work with us. We can hire people to come in and give us information about what we're doing wrong. But again, those aren't really collaborators. We may be able to build them into it, but these people are different. Now, I also want to point out this company, if you've not seen this, Despair.com is a company that makes demotivational posters. This is an art form that is imitated but never equaled. The original, and you can purchase these, are fairly inexpensive. I have no connection to the company. But no mid-career professional should be without at least one demotivator to help them through their day. So when we were at that mentoring table, we got to the point where people said, collaboration is really important. And so the people said, okay, well, can you tell me how to collaborate? Now, the answer to that question is not really. I don't know how you would want to collaborate and how you do things. I may be able to peer mentor some scientists, but I can't tell you exactly how you would go about collaborate. Although I think a good start would be for Susan's talk that we just heard. I think she had some real answers, and I'm actually going to point people to her YouTube video once it goes up, because I think there are ways to collaborate, but you have to find out how to do that. Just like trying to figure out how to be creative and what creativity means. You have to learn that for yourself and what works for what it is that you do. Now I'm going to finish with a little rain cloud. Barriers to collaboration. And I'm not going to put a list of these. We can all think about what barriers are to collaboration. But this is probably the most important consideration, because these things get in the way of how we collaborate. There are institutional barriers. There can be bureaucratic barriers. But we ourselves may be the biggest barriers. If you think about people you work with, and maybe people who work for you if you're in a position where you oversee other people. And you may say, I'm very open to collaboration. I watch TEDTalks. I think collaboration is great. But what about the people who are maybe at a lower rung in your organization? Oh, I don't want them to collaborate. No. They've got too much to do. They have too many things they have to worry about. There are legal concerns. There are financial concerns. I want to collaborate, but not them. That's a barrier. That's a barrier to collaboration, because they're going to be going through mid-career transitions too. They need that. You need that. So when we think about careers in the 21st century and how we train for careers, we need to think about how we can promote collaboration and how we can not be a barrier to collaboration. If we do that, we should be able to find people that we can work with, we can enjoy a beer after work, and we can enjoy a successful career. Thank you very much.